Emma gazes out of the train window, lost in thought as the vibrant autumn landscape passes by. The warm sunlight filters through the glass, casting a reflective and serene mood, setting the stage for the mystery that is about to unfold. On a chilly autumn morning, the world seemed to blur past as Emma watched the landscape through the train window. The leaves had begun to turn vibrant shades of orange and red, creating a beautiful contrast against the pale sky. She was on her usual commute to work, her thoughts lost in the rhythm of the wheels beneath her feet, unaware that today was the day her life would change forever. For the past few months, Emma had been taking the 7:30 a.m. train from her small suburban town to the city. It was a routine she had grown accustomed to, one that she found strangely comforting. The train was her escape, a brief respite from the noise of the world outside, a place where she could think, dream, and wonder. Today, however, was different. She felt an inexplicable tension in the air, as if something was about to happen. She couldn't quite put her finger on it, but there was a sense of anticipation that kept her on edge. As she glanced around the train carriage, she noticed a few familiar faces, other commuters who, like her, had settled into their morning rituals of reading, listening to music, or staring blankly out the window. That's when she saw her. A girl, no more than 16, sitting across the aisle. Her eyes were wide and filled with fear, her hands trembling as she clutched a small backpack to her chest. She looked out of place among the business suits and briefcases, like a lost child in a sea of adults. Emma couldn't help but stare. There was something about the girl, something that drew her in, that made her want to reach out and ask if she was all right. But she hesitated. What could she say? She was just a stranger on a train, after all. And yet, she couldn't shake the feeling that the girl needed help. The train jolted to a stop at the next station, and Emma watched as the girl glanced nervously around the carriage, her eyes darting from one passenger to the next. It was then that Emma noticed the bruise on the girl's wrist, just peeking out from under the sleeve of her oversized sweater. Her heart skipped a beat. Something was wrong. The young girl sits across the aisle, clutching her backpack tightly, fear and anxiety clear on her face. Emma felt a surge of urgency. She stood up, slowly making her way across the aisle, her mind racing with questions. Was the girl running away from someone? Was she in danger? But before Emma could reach her, the train lurched forward, and the girl jumped up from her seat, bolting toward the door. Wait, Emma called out, but the girl didn't stop. She darted through the crowd, disappearing into the next carriage. Emma hurried after her, pushing past bewildered passengers, her heart pounding in her chest. The train was speeding through the countryside now, its steady rhythm broken only by the occasional squeal of the wheels on the tracks. Emma followed the girl through several carriages, her mind spinning with thoughts of what might be happening. Who was this girl? Why was she running? Finally, Emma reached the end of the train. She burst through the door and found herself on the narrow platform between carriages. The wind whipped her hair around her face, and she blinked against the cold, her eyes searching for the girl. But she was gone. Emma leaned over the railing, looking down at the tracks below, half expecting to see the girl's body lying there, but there was nothing. She was gone. For a moment, Emma just stood there, the sound of the wind and the rumble of the train filling her ears. Then, slowly, she turned and made her way back inside. She returned to her seat, her thoughts swirling with confusion and fear. Who was that girl, and why had she run? Emma couldn't shake the image of the girl's terrified face from her mind. She knew she had to do something, but what? Call the police, tell the conductor, but what could she say? She didn't even know the girl's name. The rest of the journey passed in a blur. When the train finally pulled into the city station, Emma stepped off, still in a daze. She walked through the crowded terminal, her mind replaying the events of the morning over and over. She had to find that girl. She had to know what was going on. Over the next few days, Emma became obsessed with the mystery of the girl on the train. She couldn't stop thinking about her, couldn't shake the feeling that she was in danger. She began taking the same train every morning, hoping to catch another glimpse of her. But the girl never appeared. It wasn't until a week later that Emma's search took an unexpected turn. She was sitting in her usual seat, staring out the window, when she noticed something strange. A piece of paper was tucked between the cushions of the seat across from her, the seat where the girl had been sitting. Emma's heart raced as she reached for it. The paper was crumpled and torn, but she could make out a few words scribbled in messy handwriting. "I'm sorry, I didn't mean to hurt anyone." Emma stared at the note, her mind racing. What did it mean? Who was this girl, and what had she done? Determined to uncover the truth, Emma began investigating. She searched for news reports, talked to people who might know the girl, and even followed up with the police. But no one seemed to know anything. The girl remained a ghost, a fleeting presence on the train, haunting Emma's thoughts. Then, one morning, everything changed. Emma was sitting in her usual seat when she noticed a man watching her from across the carriage. He was tall and thin, with a gaunt face and cold, calculating eyes. There was something about him that sent a chill down her spine. He was staring at her, unblinking, as if he knew something she didn't. Emma chases the terrified girl through the crowded train aisle, the tension building with every step. For the next few days, the man appeared on every train ride. Always watching, always silent. Emma couldn't shake the feeling that he was following her, that he knew about the girl on the train. Panic began to set in. She didn't know who this man was or what he wanted, but she knew she was in danger. Desperate for answers, Emma confided in her friend, Rachel, who had been concerned about her erratic behavior lately. Rachel urged her to go to the police again, but Emma was hesitant. She didn't have any concrete evidence, just a gut feeling that something was wrong. But then, one evening, as she boarded the train for her ride home, she saw her. The girl. She was sitting at the very back of the carriage, her head down, her hands clutching that same small backpack. Emma's heart raced as she approached her. "Hey," she said softly, sitting down next to the girl. "Are you all right?" The girl looked up at her, her eyes filled with tears. "I didn't mean to hurt anyone," she whispered, her voice trembling. "What happened?" Emma asked gently, placing a hand on the girl's arm. The girl hesitated for a moment before she spoke. I ran away. From him. He's looking for me." "Who?" "The man on the train." Emma's heart pounded in her chest. The girl nodded, her eyes wide with fear. "He's dangerous. I tried to get away, but he found me." Emma's mind raced. The man had been following her, watching her, but he wasn't after her. He was after the girl. She had to help her, but how? The train was still moving, and they were miles from the nearest station. Suddenly, the train jolted, and the lights flickered. The girl gasped, clutching her backpack tighter. Emma looked around, panic rising in her chest. What was happening? The train came to a screeching halt, and the lights went out completely, plunging them into darkness. Hiding between the seats, Emma and the girl hold their breath as the sinister man searches the carriage. For a moment, there was silence. Then, the doors at the far end of the carriage creaked open, and Emma heard footsteps. Her heart raced as she strained to see in the dim light. The man. He was coming for the girl. "Stay quiet," Emma whispered, grabbing the girl's hand. "We have to hide." They crouched down between the seats, their hearts pounding in unison. The footsteps grew closer, echoing through the carriage. Emma held her breath, praying that the man wouldn't find them. But then, the footsteps stopped. Emma dared to peek over the seat and saw the man standing just a few feet away, his cold eyes scanning the carriage. He knew they were there. He could sense it. Emma's mind raced, searching for a way out. There had to be something she could do, some way to distract him. Her eyes darted to the emergency lever near the door. If she could just reach it. Before she could move, the girl suddenly stood up. "No," Emma hissed, but it was too late. The man's eyes locked onto the girl, a cruel smile spreading across his face. "I knew I'd find you," he said, his voice low and menacing. "You can't run from me." The girl took a step back, her hands trembling. "Please," she begged, "just leave me alone." But the man didn't stop. He took a step forward, his hand reaching for her. In that moment, something snapped inside Emma. She couldn't let this happen. She couldn't let the girl be taken by this monster. Without thinking, she lunged for the emergency lever and pulled it with all her strength. The train lurched forward, throwing the man off balance. He stumbled, his hand missing the girl by inches. "Run!" Emma screamed, grabbing the girl's hand and pulling her toward the door. They raced through the carriage, the man hot on their heels. Emma's heart pounded in her chest as they reached the door at the end of the carriage. She slammed it shut behind them, locking it just as the man reached it. But they weren't safe yet. Emma and the girl walk along the railway tracks, the night sky looming above them as they make their escape. The train was still moving, and the man was pounding on the door, his face twisted with rage. They had to get off the train, but how? The next station was miles away. "Come on," Emma said, pulling the girl toward the emergency exit. They climbed down onto the tracks, the cold night air biting at their skin. Emma glanced back at the train, the man's furious face still pressed against the window. They had escaped, for now, but Emma knew it wasn't over. The girl was still in danger, and the man wouldn't stop until he found her again. As they walked along the tracks, Emma made a silent promise to herself. She would protect this girl, no matter what it took.